following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Hey, welcome in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside the Hall of Famer Mo Patton and Justin Kulik on the controls. As we roll on this week, it is Tuesday, and that's exciting for us because we got a lot to talk about. And we have, of course, our typical Tuesday guest, which is Chip Walters, the voice of the Blue Raiders, will be joining us. We'll also start our SEC football previews, and we start in the SEC West with Arkansas, as Pat Jenkins will join us. He's going to talk about the Razorbacks a little bit. We've also got, of course, Daily Braves chatter. Got some college football here to talk about momentarily, and, of course, it's Top 5 Tuesday, Top 5. You know, Mo, it's been a while since we've used a celebrity death to influence a top 5. We used to do it all the time. But today we will honor the memory and legacy of both Olivia Newton-John, who passed away yesterday from breast cancer, and today being Whitney Houston's birthday. We will honor her as well. So it is Top 5 songs that came from soundtrack songs.
Now I'm going to need a clarification on that. I mean, there are songs that are used on soundtracks that predated the movie.
I will tell you that my top 5 are songs that were made for movies.
Okay. All right. Well, mine are not.
And specifically,
with perhaps one. Well, there's a couple, but
I bet your number 1 was made for a movie.
I bet it was too.
I already know. Do what, Justin?
What did you think it was, Mo?
He knows. Chris knows what my number 1 is. Anybody that knows me knows what my number 1 is.
Matter of fact,
but that's okay.
We should really just make it the gold standard, because I didn't even put it on my list because I knew it was going to be your number 1, so I just left it be. But for those who don't know, Mo, we'll let that simmer.
Yeah, we'll let that marinate a little bit. Yeah, we'll let JK kind of sit there and try to figure this out.
Chopping at the bit over here.
Yeah, Justin wants to know, and he's going to be the last thing he hears before we go off the air.
Shouldn't say anything.
Hey, building up the suspense already, man.
That's right. That's called a tease.
For some folks. Again, there are those. If anybody's been listening to or watching this show from the get, or anybody that knows me, again, they know.
They know what number 1. That's all right though.
Yeah.
Let's Mo, we have so much to get into, and yesterday some big news that came across the sportsbusinessjournal.com, where the Big Ten, and officially about 3 hours ago, the ESPN has pulled out of negotiations. It looks like the Big Ten is going to be headed to CBS and NBC along with their Fox contract.
So here's my question. With that, what's Notre Dame saying?
So, well, Notre Dame rarely plays night games anyway on NBC. Most of their games are played in the daytime. And I think they only have, does Notre Dame play exclusively on NBC? Because I thought they only did their home games.
I think it might only be their home games, but still, Notre Dame, I think, kind of calls themselves NBC's exclusive, or
not no mo.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think this is a move by the Big Ten to try and force Notre Dame's hand.
As far as joining the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Notre Dame's not going to join a conference.
Well, I mean, in the world of super conferences, they may not have a choice.
Good luck convincing Notre Dame of that.
Well, this I think is a step in that direction. I think this is a move that the Big Ten and NBC maybe specifically are saying.
So you think NBC is trying to force Notre Dame to join a conference?
Well, if they only get their home games right now, they could certainly make it different with, obviously getting Notre Dame home games and then a Big Ten game at night is a great doubleheader. So maybe not. Maybe NBC
I mean,
isn't.
it's a great move for NBC, I think.
Absolutely.
I just can't imagine folks in South Bend being real fired up about it. And, given the sway that they have held over college football for this period of time, I was just a little surprised to see it go down like that.
It is interesting. But here's what's really great, and I love it. I mean, I think this is great for the Big Ten because obviously CBS is had to have something.
Once they lost the SEC.
And the biggest thing here, and again, this is all football driven, but you have to remember that the Big Ten basketball eyeballs are much bigger than the SEC's basketball eyeballs.
Well, yeah. I mean, because you've got the Chicago market.
You're taking out the entire Midwest.
Yeah, the markets that they tout for college football are really bigger for college basketball. Like you said, I mean, New York, the entire East Coast, basically, Chicago, the entire Midwest. It's
basketball
SEC basketball doesn't traditionally move the needle the way Big Ten basketball is going to. So that while everything is about football, basketball is a heck of a consolation prize for these television channels or platforms or whatever they are. I don't know if they're even channels anymore.
Yeah. Well, I guess CBS and Fox and NBC are. They're over the air, so I guess they're channels. But yeah, I mean that's where I think that ESPN is going to lose some leverage. I'm really curious how this is going to work out for ESPN. I don't know.
I don't know what it means for ESPN either. And as long as we're talking about college basketball for a second, something came across Twitter yesterday that I meant for us to talk about, and it got away from me. Our friend Matt Brown mentioned that there is talk of automatic qualifiers going away for certain conferences.
Well, at least some G5s are worried.
And if G5s are worried, well, if G5s are worried, then there are some others that are more worried, i.e. MEAC, SWAC, Horizon, Southland, folks like that.
Yeah, I mean, they depend on that revenue.
Sure.
Those programs depend on
those one and done conferences.
They absolutely depend on that revenue.
So,
and it would be the worst possible thing for the NCAA tournament to do because you don't get St. Peter's without an AQ.
Well, sure. Yeah, you don't get St. Peter's, you don't get
Dunk City.
You don't get UMBC a few years back.
That's right.
I mean, all of
when
those.
George Mason is a 14 seed to the Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it doesn't make sense for the NCAA tournament to go away from that. I can't.
To include the number 9 team out of the SEC or whoever else.
Sure. I think that's kind of the key there. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the NCAA would be that dumb, but
famous last words.
There you go. Famous last words. Anyway, but yeah, Big Ten TV deal likely to include CBS and NBC. How about that?
And that will start with the 2024 football season. Is that right?
It would, in fact. No.
Big Ten's current media rights deal expires in 2023.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's when in 2023 that is necessarily.
Well,
So, I
and
mean,
that's-
I guess it could be the 23 season.
That's a good question because I'm not entirely sure because I think the SEC ESPN deal doesn't start until 24.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how that would work. But anyway, it's all going to be, and then, you know, when you add a potential 10:30 kickoff to a UCLA USC game, something like that, to a CBS doubleheader or whatever, and they get the 10:30 Eastern time slot with the USC versus Michigan. Are you kidding me?
All right.
CBS is going to be just absolutely beside themselves.
I'm looking at an article on yahoosports.com on this, and it mentions a few other thoughts. And one of those is, does NBC's involvement sway Notre Dame one way or the other? We all know the Big Ten would love to add Notre Dame, which has long retained its independence. Will the fact that the Big Ten now extends to the West Coast make joining the conference more appealing to the Irish brass? And I mean, when you consider, you know, Notre Dame USC would now be a Big Ten conference game.
And the reason that Notre Dame has stayed independent so long is to be able to play games all
From coast to
across
coast.
Exactly. That was their whole thing. Was we don't want to be in a conference because we don't want to be bound by, you know, geography. Well, now that you're not bound by geography, what's stopping you? How about it? That's a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right, Mo, let's real quickly run down yesterday's results, today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
In Monday's Little League action?
No, I'm
That's
sorry,
not right.
tonight.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
that's
cool.
tonight.
That's all right. Okay. Monday's pro baseball results. The New York Mets picked up a half game on the idle Atlanta Braves with a 5-1 win over Cincinnati, as we suspected. The Cubs with a 6-3 win over the Nats. In WNBA action, Dallas defeated New York 86-77. And now in Tuesday's Little League action, Nolensville will take on Loudoun South out of Virginia for the Southeast Regional Championship down in Warner Robins, Georgia. Loudoun South has to win twice, or is this a one and done?
Winner take all.
Winner take all. Winner of this ball game goes to Williamsport. So, good luck to the Nolensville bunch.
In pro baseball action tonight, the Braves are at the Red Sox. That's on TBS at 6:10. The Mets again hosting the Reds at 6:10, and the Cubs are at home against the Nationals at 7:05. It's the Brewers hosting the Rays. That's a 7:10 first pitch, and the Rockies hosting the Cardinals at 7:40. In minor league action at First Horizon Park tonight, 7:05 first pitch. You can catch the Gwinnett Stripers 1P at Nashville.
I don't know if I said it or not. That Nolensville game is at 4:00 on ESPN. So about half hour after we get off the air, you can tune that in. WNBA action tonight. Seattle is at Chicago. That's a 7:00 start on NBA TV. At 9:00 on CBS Sports Network, it's Atlanta at the Las Vegas Aces. And at 9:30 on NBA TV, the back half of a doubleheader, the Connecticut Sun is at the Los Angeles Sparks. And that is your rundown.
All right, we'll be right back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint with Pat Jenkins on the Hill Sports Talk, talking a little Arkansas football. So stick around. Be right back. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton here on this fine Tuesday. I thought it was going to rain this afternoon, but the 50% chance has chanced itself to at least zero currently here in Columbia. I don't know what the weather's like up there in your part of the world, Mo.
It's overcast. So, I mean, I could see something happening before the day is over, for sure.
We are getting ready to start our SEC football previews, as we will preview hopefully every team in the SEC between now and August 26th, which will put us the day before Vanderbilt kicks off in Hawaii. And we're hoping to and efforting to get Pat Jenkins on the line here, and he'll talk a little Arkansas football for us here in just a few moments. But
let's prime the pump a little bit. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic had an article earlier today, Chris, as we talked about the AFCA preseason top 25 and who was in some positions that we didn't necessarily think they should have been in. Stewart picked out some overrated and some underrated teams in a column this morning, and trying to locate that. But one of the teams he mentioned as underrated was Arkansas. And so I can see that.
Yeah, I can see Arkansas being underrated. And you know, obviously September 3rd, they host Cincinnati, and off the top, which is probably it's probably going to be one of the better games that day with a 2:30 kick. Unfortunately, it'll be going up against Oregon and Georgia, so that's unfortunate for him. Hope you got 2 televisions, but yeah, Arkansas. I think who was it yesterday? And it may have been an Arkansas person that I heard say this. They said the Arkansas-Alabama game will be the most important game in the SEC West.
Okay. It's something to think about. I mean, it's sort of like West Durham's ACC quarterbacks comment yesterday. It kind of stuns you at first, but then when you think about it, the more sense it makes. Pat says he is having some email issues and is going to need to punt today. So
that's all right. We'll just go through the Arkansas schedule. That's not a problem at all. But yeah, that's what I think is Look, Alabama is clearly the class. Arkansas, though, is a team that you and I, Mo, have specifically talked about being a team to watch out for in the SEC West. And they play Texas A&M at Texas A&M the week before Alabama. If they get out of Arlington, I say at Texas A&M, it's a neutral site game every year.
Jerry's place.
But yeah, but if they get out of that game with a win, I think the very next week probably is the biggest game in the SEC, especially up to that point.
Reading Mandel's comment again, Arkansas was ranked 23rd in the AFCA preseason top 25. He says Sam Pittman has been extremely impressive so far as an SEC head coach, and in a division full of teams in flux, the Razorbacks could finish as high as second or third. Apparently not first. Quarterback KJ Jefferson is a beast, no doubt, and his offensive line is experienced, and linebacker Bumper Pool and safety Jalen Catalan feel like they've been there forever.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
What we know about what Sam Pittman did last year just goes to prove that this is a team to be reckoned with. Don't sleep on Arkansas. And Justin, if you want to pull that back up, whenever you get it ready, let's go through their schedule, because obviously they host Cincinnati in week 1. That should be a win for a team like Arkansas, who's a little bit more seasoned than a team who's lost their best cornerback, but potentially the best cornerback in the country, and Sauce Gardner. And then obviously they lost, Desmond Ridder, their quarterback.
They lost a lot.
They lost a lot. And those are just the two best players on both sides of the ball. So that tells you that, Arkansas with KJ Jefferson and the experience they have coming back, they should win that game. I think week 2 or September 10th, I guess technically it's week 3. I don't know. Is Arkansas, is Vanderbilt week 0? Is that what they're calling? I don't. Who knows?
Don't mention week 0 around here. Right. High school folks lose their minds.
South Carolina, this is the game where we find out if Spencer Rattler can play in the SEC.
Yeah, I think we find out a lot more about South Carolina in this ball game than we do about Arkansas. I think Arkansas wins this ball game.
At home, I would certainly think so. Again, there are some – Autzen Stadium is not easy to play in. It still doesn't match most SEC atmospheres. So we'll see. Obviously, at home against Missouri State should be a win. But
don't sleep on that ball game. Missouri State was a playoff participant a year ago, and I am trying to check.
Hey, if UT Martin can beat them,
you know who's coaching Missouri State, right?
Bobby Petrino, right?
There we go.
Yeah, that's the story within the story.
Exactly.
If they don't just have his entire press conference with him in the neck brace playing the entire time on the Jumbotron, I don't really know what we're doing here.
What are we doing? What are you doing with your life? Yeah. But and then like you said, that Texas A&M game at Arlington. So
they should be no worse than 3-1, but if they're 4-0 going into that Alabama game, it is huge, especially since it's in Fayetteville, right?
Right.
And then you got 3 road games. Of course, you got the bye week or the open week before Auburn, but at Mississippi State, a lot of folks high on Mississippi State, but honestly, I feel like that's a game Arkansas should win and probably does win. At BYU last year might have been a tough one, but and then you've got at Auburn, who we just really don't know.
And then you've got Liberty coming into Fayetteville, and Malik Willis ain't walking through that door.
Right, but you still have – look, I'm much like Lane Kiffin. I'm not sleeping on any quarterback that shows up at Liberty, because Hugh Freeze can coach a quarterback. If he can do nothing else, he can coach a quarterback. So and look, Liberty's going to be the beneficiary of transfers and that sort of thing. And I don't know who they've got at quarterback right now, but my guess is they're not going to be bad. But then again, it's a game that Arkansas, if we're talking about, should win.
Right.
If they were to beat Alabama, they could potentially go into that LSU game, 7-0, 8-0?
8-0.
And again, LSU coming to you. If they
I'm sorry, 9-0. They could go into LSU 9-0 if they beat Alabama.
Looking at this schedule, there's no reason that Arkansas shouldn't be the number 2 team in the conference or in the West.
If they beat Alabama,
they should win it.
Yeah.
Because they're cross region at Missouri and South Carolina. Those are 2 bottom SEC East teams. Now, we don't know about South Carolina, but you're getting them early enough that
we feel like we know about Missouri, though.
And we certainly feel like we know about Missouri. So Ole Miss is going to be a tough game, sure. But again, you get your toughest games, Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, all in Fayetteville. This schedule lines up perfectly for Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks to be pretty darn good.
And they've got the quarterback, and
that's half the battle.
Again, it's a quarterback driven league.
It's a quarterback driven ball game. The game is quarterback driven, and you're sitting here going, I feel like I got a pretty good quarterback, and all of my toughest games are at home. Let's run it, man. I wasn't super high on Arkansas until right now. You look at the schedule and you go, Arkansas's 10-win football team.
I tell you, I really liked what I saw out of KJ Jefferson last year. And the backup, whose name I don't remember, but he came in on a couple of occasions when KJ got banged up. And he's not bad either.
Yeah, I'm not sure who they have. Malik Hornsby, who is a redshirt sophomore.
I believe that's it.
Cade Fortin, who is a redshirt senior, transfer from South Florida, and I believe that's it for their. Well, they've got a couple of guys. Cade Renfro. That maybe.
No, I think it's Hornsby. I think it's Hornsby that I'm remembering from last year.
Cade Renfro, though, is a transfer from Ole Miss who was fairly decent out of high school, out of Texas, I believe. So that's I don't know if there's a backup quarterback battle, but then you've got, you're hoping that you don't have to worry about it because you're hoping that obviously KJ Jefferson is your guy all year.
Well, my only concern is as physical as he is and as involved in the run game as he is, he puts himself at risk at times. And so, there may be some situations where you have to go to your number 2 just because of the way they play and the way he plays. That's my thought process as far as that goes. No, you don't want to see that number 2 guy, but I think the way he plays, it's almost a given that you're going to at some point.
Malik Hornsby appeared in 7 games last year, took 81 offensive snaps, was 5 of 12 passing for 46 and a touchdown, ran the ball 24 times, 135 yards, and had a completion in at least 4 different games. So
I'm glad you could find that because it took me forever to get there.
Oh, well, I was on there. I was on the ArkansasRazorbacks.com when I was looking at their schedule. So I just clicked roster and it was there. It was pretty easy to find once I got to that point, but
good on you.
I started in the right spot. That's where the key was. But anyway, so look at there. Arkansas. I may be a little higher on the Razorbacks than initially.
And I hate that we couldn't get Pat Jenkins from On the Hills Sports Talk podcast, but again, apparently he was having some technical difficulties. we can
He was
relate.
at SEC Media Days, right?
He was, yeah. Got
Thought
to
I
hang
saw
out a little
him.
bit with him. Yeah. So hopefully we can swing back to him at some point and get a little bit more insight on the Razorbacks. But because
Absolutely.
I think they're a team we're going to be talking about.
Absolutely. Now, if you do want a little bit of insight from an Arkansas person, you can always go back and watch our interview with Bob Holt from SEC Media Days. We get a little bit there. And so Bob's always great, provides great insight. And he's as entertaining as anybody I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, man, he's part sports writer, part historian, because he's been around that program forever.
Yeah, he's entertaining to talk to, and I enjoyed it. So you can always go back and listen to that Bob Holt interview, but hopefully we'll talk more about the Razorbacks throughout the year for sure.
And you can find Pat Jenkins on Twitter at Pat Jenkins 4.
Yeah,
and
go listen to the podcast.
His podcast, yeah, On the Hill, all things Arkansas. So,
all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, this should be fun, Mo. TSSAA has a couple of proposals set forth to be voted on later this month. We'll talk about those and what they could mean potentially for postseason play in the TSSAA. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joints, back after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Still to come on this Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, is the voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters, will join us to talk a little Middle Tennessee athletics. But first, Mo, we hop into the first portion of our tagline, from preps to pros. With high school football essentially kicking off this weekend with jamborees and whatnots, it should be a lot of fun. So here we go. But the TSSAA, there's a video on basically on their website or on YouTube that kind of lays out a potential for classification changes from 23 to 27 because
the state off.
Let's just use these slides, Justin, if that's okay. And we'll go through this where the proposed solution to having some schools being too small or having some schools in a classification be twice the size as the smallest school in the classification, etc. Here are some of the solutions proposed. Instead of, and you look at bullet point 4, let the natural distribution of enrollments determine which classes have 16 districts and which classes have 8 districts.
I think you have to look at the third and fourth bullet points together, Chris, for that fourth one to make sense. Place greater priority on classes having similar enrollments rather than classes having similar numbers of schools.
Correct.
Basically, the way the TSSAA has handled classification to this point has been they have established breakpoints whereby you have the same number of schools in each class, whether it be 3, whether it be 5, whether it be 4, whatever it is, you've got a similar number of schools in each of those classifications.
It's around 50 right now, 49-ish in most every class.
And so if you begin to place a greater priority on classes having similar enrollments, then you're going to kind of squeeze, you're going to wind up with fewer schools in some classes and more schools in other classes, I would think.
You're going to have
particularly your larger ones.
Right. Well, so you're going to end up having a lot more 2 and 3As. Most of your 2A through 3A schools that's what most schools are in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Most schools they're not small, tiny schools like, Santa Fe, Culleoka, or whatever. And they're not huge schools like Collierville and I say
McGavock and Mount Juliet.
Yeah, just the huge schools. Obviously the biggest class has the biggest struggle with scheduling because it's hard for a school with 2,500 people to get a school with 1,000 kids to play them.
Right.
And so what this does is it eliminates some aspects of the scheduling to make it a little bit easier by changing the districts. So what this would do is in class 1A, you would have 69 teams. And in class 4A, you would have 57 teams. Whereas in 2A and 3A, you would have 98 and 107. So the 98 and 107 is closer to what we had in when we had just 3 classes.
Right.
And 69 was closer to what we have when 4 classes.
All right. And as you pointed out with that fourth bullet point, let the natural distribution of enrollments determine which classes will have 16 districts and which classes will have 8 districts. And then you implement that fifth bullet point, adjust the number of state tournament qualifiers based on the number of schools per class. And I can tell you, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Chris, but that will be the rub.
It is, but if you look at this, it makes so much sense, right? So if you're trying to get to the green, right? If you're trying to get to that 8 teams per district or 6 teams per district, 7, because obviously having fewer teams per district just doesn't work. I mean, if I've got 4 teams in a district and 4 teams go to region,
for basketball.
For basketball, and that's what this is. This is really what this is going to come down to, because you and I both know football is a moot point.
Yeah,
they're going to propose it, but it's a moot point.
I don't think this is for football. I think it's for everything else, just like the 4 classes that we currently have. Just as you said, they are 4 equally distributed enrollment-wise classes.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense because you're here in this yellow where it's 5.3 instead of a 5.9 or 6, where you're getting closer to 6 teams per district. So, like you said, it changes the number of state tournament participants. What it does is it actually brings the number back to the same number of state tournament participants that we had in 3 classes. So you're going from 32 right now with 4 back to 24. So the number of state tournament participants is really not that much different. Except the tournament gets smaller when you get to Murfreesboro.
Tell that to those 2A and those 3A schools.
Well, the 2A and 3A stay at 8. So the 2A and 3A tournaments would stay at 8 teams per tournament.
They stay at 8 teams per tournament, but they're getting more schools to compete with to get those 8 teams, I think.
They are. I mean, they had this. They would basically 2A and 3A would be going back to what it was when it was 3A, when there were 3 classes. 1A and 4A would benefit from having smaller number of competition, but they would have a smaller number of teams in the postseason in those state tournaments.
Right.
But if you're really looking at it as a competitive balance standpoint, this makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of logic to this. I think it makes like you said, it makes a lot of sense in an overarching way.
Well, I'll tell you where
it's not going to make the most sense to each individual school. And so it's going to come down to some folks being able to make a decision for the good of the group instead of for the good of self. And right now, we're not necessarily a society that really does that very well.
Here's where it helps the individual schools, and this is where they made the biggest. This is where I think they make the biggest argument. Mm-hmm. Your districts become more consistent, so you're not playing 4 different schools in softball than you do in volleyball or football. Your districts become almost identical, which is huge.
I think that's huge. I think that's something that we've heard a lot
in travel
over the past few years, is that, establishing and maintaining those rivalries is something that we've not been able to do. And something we saw with this current classification is you've got a lot of 5-team districts out there, which means for basketball, you're taking 4 teams to the region. You're only eliminating 1 team in each district. And folks are kind of having an issue with that.
I mean, I think, and that's what that last bullet point on this next slide where you see is avoid separating a school from a natural district opponents. Travel is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And, we heard it in the June meeting when Bernard said, ask your friends in Division II how they feel about travel. And so, I mean, I think this proposal for everything but football, again, they're proposing 4 districts, or 4 classes, they're proposing 5 classes, they're proposing 6 classes. This is, you're not going back. The genie's not going back in the bottle, as we've said 100 times on this show. Football's a moot point. But if we're talking about basketball, baseball, softball with 4 classes, and that's what we're talking about, this makes the most sense.
And that second bullet point, Chris, speaks to the point that you were just making. Create 1 district alignment to be used across all 3 and 4 class sports except track and field.
It's huge. I love it.
Yeah, because, you can learn to hate somebody year round in that situation.
Exactly right. So to me, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think that's the TSSAA is trying to answer some of those concerns. I think there have been a lot of concerns in this new 3 and 4 class situation that they found themselves in. And of course, when you move to that 4th class, you're going to have some growing pains. You're going to have, here's some unintended consequences. How do we go about fixing that? And I think this eliminates a lot of those issues. It gets your travel back down to what it needs to be. It creates those district rivals. You still have 4 classes, so you have 4 champions. Now, are class 2A and 3A going to be happy about it? I don't know. But I mean, honestly, it certainly helps the biggest class and the smallest class more than it helps the two middle classes. But
it feels like the state office has done a pretty solid job in trying to anticipate some of those unintended consequences and perhaps head some of those off before they develop.
Kudos to whoever put this proposal together, because I really think that they answered a lot of questions. I think the TSSAA showing that it is making an effort to make everybody in the association at least somewhat happy with regards to the money side of it. Does that make sense? The business side.
I'm reminded of Nick Saban saying, if you want to make everybody happy, go sell ice cream. But
and they're not going to make everybody happy, but I do think that this probably makes the most people happy.
Yeah. And you know, I'm not sure exactly how involved in this new TSSAA executive director Mark Reeves was or is, but it certainly provides an opportunity for him to, as Nuke LaLoosh would say, announce his presence with authority.
make a little noise. Make a little noise, Mark.
Yeah. It's a new sheriff in town. So
here you go. All right. Let's tell us what you think about that. You know, let us know. Shoot us a comment, shoot us a tweet. We'd love to know what you guys think about it. Obviously, we have a lot of coaches who listen to this show and watch this show, so I'm really curious what coaches may, and maybe they haven't seen this proposal yet. I don't know.
Maybe they haven't.
So it may be news to them, and that's even better.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, I'm curious what some of these coaches think about it. I really am. Let's take a break, and on the other side of it, we will get to the Braves. So we'll take a quick break here, Justin. It won't be halftime necessarily, but we'll take a quick break and come back with the second half of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Y'all stick around. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee sports editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
Other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama, so other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Welcome back in. It is Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton as we are getting ready for a pair of games in Boston if you are a Braves fan. So looking forward to that. It's always fun to go back home if you're the Braves. And
yeah,
you know, this is a pretty historical, I guess, rivalry-ish. I don't know. I don't really hate the Red Sox. I don't have any feelings necessarily towards the Red Sox.
I don't really hate the Red Sox. In fact, the Red Sox were probably my second favorite team growing up. I'm not really sure what it was about them that I gravitated to, but and it's odd as much as I hated the Celtics, but just really enjoy watching them play. And maybe it was the 76 World Series. I don't know, but that was, they always seem to have a fun team and a lot of talent. But right now, the Braves need to go in there and get a couple and get out. So See how that goes.
Yeah, obviously Atlanta coming off of a tough series in New York, and you've got a team that you should absolutely take care of
Mm-hmm.
in the Red Sox, who are hovering around 500, so they're not terrible, but you certainly feel like this is a team that you should beat if you are the Braves. Charlie Morton and Rich Hill will be taking the bump tonight for each team respectively, and they have similar numbers, Mo. I mean, Morton 4.09 ERA, Hill with a 4.5, 1.21 WHIP versus 1.32 for Hill. It's to me, these two guys are very similar.
Yeah, and we've seen both ends of the spectrum with Morton here, obviously, as he continues to come back from the broken leg that he sustained in the World Series. And yeah, it's almost to the point where I don't know if his inconsistency is related to that injury or if it's just old or what his situation is. And it's really kind of frustrating that you don't know what you're going to get out of him. I mean, he comes back first start out of the break and he throws 6-7 shutout against the Angels. And then he gets blown up and then he throws another 6 shutout in his next start. And that up and down, it's just got to be really tough to manage. It's certainly tough to watch. So
Morton has not had a decision since that loss at Philadelphia.
How many starts has he had since?
2. This will be his third start since then. But both of those times he both times out he actually had solid outings. And I think that's kind of been the key, is that now that he's sort of finding himself. Now he has had the 1 inning in every outing, but if you can pinpoint, or if you get 5 out of him, if you're Brian Snicker, do you say, let's go ahead and take what we got and try to get this through with the bullpen?
That would conventionally not be a bad idea, but that has also conventionally not been the way Snit has managed things, much to our chagrin. Sometimes you try to get a little too much out of some guys, and with Charlie in particular, when it turns hard and quick, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he was so good against Philadelphia at home.
Until he wasn't?
No, he was great. Colin McHugh's the one who lost the game. It was a 1-1 game going into the 7th, and McHugh lost it. And that was a huge game for the Braves that they probably should have won in that series. But for Atlanta to be successful over the next 6 games, they've got to, obviously, you have the one off day between Boston and Miami. Thank goodness. You had the off day between New York and Boston. So your bullpen should be good.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get to the 6th, I feel like you've got to think about it. You've got to think about guys like Colin McHugh or even Waskari Noah, who's back up. You got to think about
Mentor and Matzik. I mean, you've got plenty of arms out there.
Matzik has struggled. I think, and with the addition of Iglesias, this may not be the case anymore. But I think Mentor's kind of been the setup guy up until now. So I think it's supposed to. I think the idea is Mentor, Iglesias, Jansen. I think, but then you've got McHugh, Matzik, you've got Inoa, you've got is it Jesse Spencer?
Jackson Stevens.
Jackson Stevens, not Jesse Spencer. Jackson Stevens. So, I mean, you've got options in the 6th. how do you use them? I think your bullpen should be open the next 2
Don't
days.
forget about Dylan Lee.
And who has been really, really good at times this year. And when he's been bad, he's been catastrophically bad, but most of the time he's been very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, yeah, and we watch the Braves a lot more than we watch a lot of other teams. I think you could probably say what we say about this Braves bullpen about most bullpens.
Yep.
Because, you know, when you look at rankings and that kind of thing, the Braves bullpen is probably a top 5 in most metrics that you look at.
Yep. Absolutely. No, I truly believe that this bullpen has been much better than it has been bad. It's been good more than it's been bad, and on a lot more occasions. So I'm not throwing shade at the bullpen at all. I'm just saying it just seems like Minter and Matic both, you know, when they have a bad game, it seems to be catastrophically bad. But I'd rather them get it all out in one game than it linger over 2 or 3.
Get it out the way, huh?
Yeah. Give up 4 runs on 3 hits and 2 walks. I much rather you do that than, you know, than have that line over 4 games.
Right.
So it is an option. Now, the Braves for the first time this season lost 3 games in a row. Well, Charlie Morton again is pitching tonight on TBS. If the Braves were to somehow lose, at least Kyle Wright, the stopper, is on the bump tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see Odorizzi in Miami in a few days. I mean, obviously, throwing him out there against the New York Metropolitans, we don't really know what we're getting. And of course, probably against the Marlins, you don't really know what you're getting either. but I want to see how he bounces back and how this team bounces back. Do they have another Arizona style team meeting and, you know, go on a run here? Or
I think a team meeting is a little overdue. Probably should have had one coming out of New York or maybe coming into Boston. Maybe there's one today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I haven't heard of anything, but I'm curious if something was said or something took place between New York and Boston.
Mm-hmm. Well, they had time.
Or maybe they just, you know, went and visited national treasure monuments or something. I don't know.
I looked for a Braves lineup and have not seen one yet. Yeah, so that's a little bothersome.
Yeah, at 6:10, you would think that a lineup would have been released at this point, but it doesn't seem as though it has. So you get what you get.
Yeah, the last post at Braves is that the Braves today transferred Darren O'Day's major league rehab assignment to Gwinnett. So
yeah, to Nashville.
Right.
Yeah. Transferred him. Sorry, buddy, you got to go to Nashville real quick. Have a good one.
Well, if you got to go somewhere, there's worse places to go.
There are, in fact. In fact. All right. I'll tell you what. Why don't you tell us what happened, Mo, this day in Braves history?
August 9th, 1951, Boston Braves catcher Ebba St. Clair was busy during a 5-4 win over Philadelphia, participating in 3 double plays and tying a major league record. He covered third base to complete an inning-ending twin killing in the 3rd inning, then sparked strike him out, throw him out double plays in the 4th and 6th. Took 48 years before another National League backstop was involved in 3 double plays in a game. So 1999 before that occurred again. I know you were told there was no math, so I figured I'd help you out with that.
I appreciate it, but my goodness, man, it's not ideal.
I mean, the catcher being involved in 3 double plays, especially the way he did it, like it said, that's certainly different.
Yeah,
you don't see that every day.
I mean, you can ground into double plays all day long, but the way that he did it, he got a little creative.
No doubt.
How,
Absolutely.
Speaking of getting creative, before we go to break, I wanted to mention the Dusty Baker Houston Astros situation that you retweeted earlier. That was genius.
It turns out that was genius. Now it turns out that apparently that was from last year. I don't know how it got life breathed back into it again, but yeah, apparently a guy theoretically tagged up and scored from third on a fly ball to right, and another runner advanced from second to third on the play. The runner that scored may or may not have tagged up after the catch. And so it was against Arizona, and the Diamondbacks were going to appeal the play at third. So when they threw over, the runner at third broke to the plate, got hung up in a rundown, eventually tagged out. But in doing so, it nullified the Diamondbacks' ability to appeal the runner leaving too soon, and the run stood. So
if you were going to get an out called on you, you might as well get a run out of it, huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Dusty Baker playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. Yeah. Yeah.
No
Send
question.
him.
Mo, we're going to take a break here, and we've got Chip Walters awaiting. So we'll talk a little MTSU on the other side of a break. So y'all stick around with us. Main Street Sports Stage presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Now, how did we get switched like that, Mo? That was weird. Hadn't had that problem all the entire day. And here we are. It's all right. Welcome back in Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint here on this Tuesday. And it is now raining outside. So my 50% chance, 50%.
It's now 100% chance.
It's now 100%. So yeah, getting a little precipitation outside here in Columbia. Not sure what the weather's like in Franklin, but we can always find out what the weather's like in Murfreesboro when we talk to the voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters. Chip, what's up, man?
Just checking the AccuWindow forecast here, and it appears that right now we have sunshine, but it's kind of what is it? Bree Smith on Channel 5 calls it popcorn showers, I think. So that's kind of what this whole week has been like. But how you guys today?
We're doing all right. Doing all right for a Tuesday. Everything's good. We're headed toward football, kind of like you are. So, and I noticed that there was some news that came out of the MTSU football bunker this morning, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. When Coach Stock came up, prior to his coming, Coach McCollum and Coach Donnelly, I think Coach McCollum had game captains, and those changed kind of from week to week, and Stock still has game captains, but here, 3 weeks or so prior to kickoff, the team votes on who their permanent captains are going to be going forward, and this year they're going to be 5 permanent captains, and they include wide receiver Yusuf Ali, quarterback Chase Cunningham, defensive end Jordan Ferguson, wide receiver Jalen Lane, and that's a pretty good honor for a sophomore right there, and Jacarius Wyatt, who is a defensive tackle. So you've got 3 offensive guys, or actually, I think the way they kind of break that down is you've got 2 offensive guys in Ali and Cunningham, 2 defensive guys in Ferguson and Wyatt. And he likes to have a special teamer, a special team captain, and Jalen Lane, with his ability to return kicks, is kind of listed as the special team captain. But man, you go back over the list of permanent captains over the years, and it's a who's who of the last 15, 17 years, and so it's a high honor, and those guys. They get that because their other teammates respect them, and it's one of the best honors you can get in this football program.
Chip, you kind of hit on it when you mentioned Jalen Lane, a sophomore, being recognized in such a manner. That was the thing that really jumped out at me when I saw this come across. As big an honor as this is under normal circumstances, the fact that he received it as a sophomore really tells you what his teammates think of him at such a young age and such a short period of time in the program.
Exactly. And I mean, and he's on, all these watch lists. Jordan Ferguson, by the way, he also was selected as a sophomore. Now here he comes into his senior year. This will be his 3rd year as a permanent captain. And I looked back over the list. The last person that was a 3-time, there are 2 guys in particular who were 3-time permanent captains, Brent Stockstill and Reed Blankenship. So if you're on a list with those guys, that's pretty good.
Is that good? That sounds good. Yeah. Goodness, that's solid. So what do you do for an encore if you're Jalen Lane then, huh?
Well, you go out and you do it all over again, and just use your work ethic as your calling card, and your teammates see that, and those are the guys who, I mean, it's not a popularity contest. It's you look back over the list of people who've done it here. I mean, I think about Jeremy Kellum, Dwight Smith, Philip Tanner, Benny Cunningham, Omar McClendon. My new broadcast partner, Jeff Murphy, was a permanent captain in 2012. So there are guys who were just all around good players and also good people.
Your new broadcast partner?
Yes, sir.
What happened to your old broadcast partner?
Well, Wes, a few weeks ago, called me and said, he goes, I think I'm ready to transition out. He goes, I've got a lot of things I want to do. He said, I've got a lot of friends who are in the coaching business. Glenn Ellerby being one of them, who is the offensive line coach. He goes, I don't get a chance to go see those guys. Plus his personal business is booming right now. And there's some weekends he's having to do that. And we kind of let this out at the True Blue Tour last stop in Murfreesboro. And there will be a story coming up on GoBlueRaiders.com before too long, but first we got some heads together and thought, who would be really, really great at this. And we've been incredibly fortunate over the last 15 or more years to have Kelly Holcomb and Wes Counts, two of the best quarterbacks to ever play at middle. And the thing that they brought to the broadcast, each, has different skill sets. But the ability to see the whole field. I've told both of them, I said, I can't see what you see. I'll have to watch the ball. And then, you see all this other stuff, and Jeff will be that same way. He is part of a group of guys. They're called the Group of Five guys, and they have a popular podcast that they do weekly that focuses on Group of Five football. So, he brings, some of that from a broadcast standpoint to the table, as well as being in the quarterback room, and knows those guys. He knows Coach Stockstill as well as anybody. And I think, his relationship with Coach will be a positive that he brings to it as well.
Spent 3 seasons at MTSU after transferring in from Laney Junior College out in California. West Coast native, played 2010, 11, and 12. And
he was here he and Logan Kilgore both came from California about the same time.
Was himself named a permanent team captain back in 2012, like you said, and earned the Dr. Sidney McPhee Senior Academic Award. So Smart guy as well.
He is, and he married into the Blue Raider family. As a matter of fact, he's now Anne Marie Lanning's brother-in-law.
Oh,
and he married Anne Marie's sister.
Okay.
So and they operate a deli restaurant in downtown Murfreesboro that's fantastic. So, and he's excited, and we're excited.
So you're keeping up the quarterback sidekick tradition, then, huh?
It appears that way. That was not necessarily the intent, but it worked out that way. And again, we've been so lucky to have guys with such great insight as Kelly and Wes, and Jeff will come at it from a little bit of a different angle. But I think, he's like I said, he's excited about it. And Scarlett, I had to get permission from Scarlett, his wife, to be able to take him away on 7 weekends this year. And she said, hey, in the restaurant business, we have challenges. We'll figure them out. And that's what we've done in the past. So she goes, all you have to do is bring me a large cup of Sonic ice every week. That's all she wants.
That's a good trade.
That's a good deal.
I think you can figure that out. Speaking with the voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chip, I don't know where we were going to go necessarily with this segment, but I want to ask you, how do you break in a new color analyst? How do you get up to speed? I mean, do y'all go and do scrimmages or how does that work?
Not, we may do a little practice, but that tends to be a little bit contrived, I think, and I've seen it done before, and I've been part of it before. I think the big thing is we are, I've already talked, is more so kind of talk about, and we've had part of this conversation already, is just, starting at its simplest form. I told Jeff, I said, hey, my job is to tell folks what happened. You tell them why it happened and how it happened. And to me, that's the best way. You let me tell what's going on, and then when it's your turn, you do that. And that's kind of a simplified way of doing it. But and really, as far as our broadcast is it's a we've got a lot of segments and really more. I don't really have any problem. I don't anticipate any issues with us in our back and forth conversation because we've sat and talked football a good bit anyway. But to go through and in detail and say, okay, here's you and I start talking 30 minutes before the game, and here's what segments we have, here's what commercial breaks we have, here's what we need to talk about, and we've already, talked about getting together, like sometime on Thursdays just to kind of go through, especially early on, of what we want to talk about. There are a couple of scrimmages coming up, and we're just watching it together and kind of talking through kind of from where he's coming from, who he's excited to see, and just to kind of have those kind of thoughts in each other's heads going into the first game. And then it's a lot of, because none of it can replace when the lights come on and the game is actually there, as our friend Coach Donnelly used to say, said some folks react well when they put the silks on, others don't. So but I don't have any doubt that we're good. We'll get through it, that first one in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and just go from there.
Well, so do you have to give him the old Chick Hearn fist to stop talking? You're not anticipating that?
I don't anticipate that, but I mean, there's a lot of this. I mean, if folks are watching the video, a lot of pointing and some of that, or a lot of this.
Got to
hit a break, or this. Hey, my computer's gone down. I need you to stretch. Those kind of. So those
that
kind
never
of things,
happens, does it?
No, never. Not at all. But that'll be fun.
I've told you before, I think you've really either done a great job of picking partners or you've been really lucky. I'm not sure which, but you mentioned Kelly Holcomb and Wes Counts, and those guys were both great as players and great folks, and they've been great in the booth with you and Kyle Turnham on your men's basketball broadcasts as well. Just the chemistry that you guys have been able to create really makes it a great listen, and I've always enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciate it. This will be my 14th year in the play-by-play chair, and it will be my, let me get this correct here, 32nd year on the radio crew. And I appreciate you giving me props for picking, but I've been luckier than good, and that always works out a little bit better. Speaking of props. The gentleman who will follow you guys today had an opportunity to be at the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame banquet on Saturday night, and went there in particular to support George and his induction. And he had a great speech. If you hadn't seen it, you can find it online, and talked about community radio, and it kind of reflects the mission of what Main Street's all about, and being hyper local, and how that's served him well. But that I ended up at a table with Dick Palmer, and I went and we sat there, and Mark McGee, our pal from Shelbyville, was at our table. Then you had Will Perdue, Steve Reese, Glenn Clem, Mike Petroni, and Kelly Klippenstein. So that was kind of an all-star cast right there.
You use Petroni and all-star cast in the same phrase?
Absolutely. Petro is
he's a legend.
He's a legend, and nothing ever changes. Nothing ever changes. But it was great to see him. When I was working on the Vandy crew, he and Mark Elliott were the GAs, or whatever you wanted to call them at the time. They'd have some sort of new title now, but they were my guys in CM's last 4 years there and Coach Fogler's first year. They were both part of that staff, and those two guys meant an awful lot to me back in the day when I was just fresh out of college and was part of that radio crew.
Chip, I'm excited. We're getting close. Football is coming up.
Yeah, today was first day of full pads and tackle to the ground, and the quarterback competition has been outstanding. You would expect Chase Cunningham and Nick Vattiato leading the way, but you've got 4 other young guys in that backing those guys up. And I was looking at the roster a minute ago. Middle's got 6 quarterbacks on its roster. 4 are in state. Kyle Lowe being Chase is from Knox Catholic, but Kyle Lowe out of Fayette Ware High School down in Brownsville and Somerville. He's an exciting kid to watch. Got a big crew of tall receivers, maybe the biggest crew of receivers that Stock has had in the last 5-6 years. Running backs, the 3 transfers, still waiting to see. You've got Frank Peasant, a returner, kind of leading that room right now, but 3 transfers, 1 from Kansas State, 1 from West Virginia, and 1 from Central Michigan, could make running back by committee something really good. So, like I said, today was the first day on a day this hot and this humid. The cooling tubs came in very, very handy this morning.
Yeah, it's that time of year too. It's still hot, but it's still football season, and that's all I'm here for. But as always, Chip, it's a pleasure. We appreciate your time, and looking forward to talking with you as football season draws near.
It's almost here, guys. Appreciate it very much.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. That's Chip Walters, the voice of the Blue Raiders. When we come back, it's Top 5 Tuesday. Top 5 soundtrack songs right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around.
This is attorney Bart Durham, and this is me. I'm Aaliyah. Keeping in good physical condition is really important to me. But when I had a wreck with a tractor-trailer truck that hurt my legs so bad I couldn't work for almost a year, I knew I needed a lawyer that understood tractor-trailer cases. So I called Bart. Bart gets millions of dollars for his clients every year.
At Bart Durham Injury Law, we've handled hundreds of tractor-trailer cases.
My dad and I want to help. Give us a call at 615-242-9000.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. It is time for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by our friends at Mid-South 5 Fitness. It is, there we go, Mid-South 5 Fitness, and Thal is still in the gang, stillathletes.com, STEEL athletes.com. That's STEEL athletes. You can find them on Instagram as well, at Still Athletes. Mo, here we go.
Let's go.
Justin, are you there?
Yes, sir, right here.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. I got 13 songs on my list, and it's going to be hard, real hard to put this down. But here we go. We will start with number 5. I'll go first since I know Justin was struggling. But the last thing I want Justin to hear is Mo's number 1. See if he can guess it by the end of this.
I'm going to get to know.
All right, here we go. My number 5 is Randy Newman. You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story.
Great. You're going to sing a little bit of it, just a little bit?
That's cute. Justin, what's your number 5?
So I pulled up 3 that I'll play, or just the beginning of them, obviously. But this is a classic. Hold on. Tell me if you can hear this.
Oh, yeah. Staying Alive. Saturday Night Fever, baby. A little John Travolta. It's always good. It's always good.
My number 5 is Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone from Top Gun.
Ooh, nice. That's a good one.
Oh, Justin.
Yo.
if you lose all your passwords and you change them to Kenny, what do you have? Kenny logins.
Hey, you just make that up?
Yeah, no, I did not. It's a good one.
No, I did not.
Wow.
Good though. It's a good one.
Oh, I'll stick with you, Justin. My number 4 is also John Travolta, but also the late Olivia Newton-John from Grease. This one is Grease Lightning, though, so she wasn't in that one, but that's my favorite song from Grease.
She was right outside. They were like about to race or something, right?
Yeah. The car's automatic, systematic, hydromatic. It's the best part of the song.
Man, I love when they drop the engine in.
Number 4.
Mine would be this. See if it plays. Can I hear that?
Oh yeah. Rocky 3.
Yes.
That's a good one.
See, it's cool. It's cool when you're the producer because you
get to do stuff like that. Yeah,
you get to do stuff like that. All we can do is read ours. My number 4 is Sam and Dave. Hold on, I'm coming from the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's great.
I love the Blues Brothers. It's one of the things we don't get. We don't get enough Blues Brothers quotes on this show anymore. It's been a minute since we've had a good Blues Brothers.
It has.
So number 3 for me, it's hard out here for a pimp. Hustle and flow.
Not hustle and flow.
Hustle and flow, baby.
Oh, where is whoop that trick, Chris?
I was about to say.
The John Morant took that one.
Oh,
because it's just so true, you know.
That's awesome. Justin, what's your number 3?
Mine's not as fun, but it's from. Y'all ever seen the movie Crazy Heart?
Oh yeah.
So it's a theme song, the weary kind.
Jeff, is it Jeff Bridges?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges is a country music singer. That's a really good movie.
It is solid, very solid, underrated. Oh, that's not really underrated, but the guy won a Grammy for the song. That's the theme. It's like the theme song of it.
Yeah, it's a really good song. I agree.
That'd be so cool to do a movie and get a Grammy.
Number 3.
My number 3 is from Remember the Titans. It's a great soundtrack all the way through that movie, but James Taylor's Fire and Rain.
Yeah, that's a great song. That is one of the best soundtracks. That soundtrack and Space Jam have nothing but bangers on it.
Space Jam.
Wow. Space Jam is a fantastic soundtrack.
I forget how young you are sometimes. Okay. All right.
Listen, how you gonna be? I believe I can fly. Come on.
Well, you got to be careful with that one these days.
Well, that's why it's not on my list. It is on my honorable mentions though. My number 2 is the title track from the title of the movie from the Queen of Tennessee, Dolly Parton, 9 to 5.
That's a solid one. She is the queen.
She is the queen. Undisputed queen.
She is. Justin, your number 2?
I'm going to see if it plays here. Hold on. It's like it was a joke.
Let it go.
Yeah. I was trying to get to the chorus, but no,
I knew it, so it landed here.
Me and Chris were talking a little bit off camera about this, but the movie You Got Served, Mo, have you ever seen that?
I've not.
So it has the whole band of, or I guess group B2K in it, and the whole time, which is an old like R&B group that I really liked, and I got their first CD, and pretty much anything from that movie is made by them. But yeah, so that whole movie is my answer.
My number 2 is from the movie Malcolm X. Change is Gonna Come. Sam Cooke. Great song.
I was born by the river. That is a great song. Like top-notch song.
Yeah.
My number 1. My knees are weak.
Oh,
my palms are sweaty. I've got vomit on my sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. Lose yourself.
What do they call those? The type of poem? No, I can't remember it. A coup.
It could be a haiku. Yep, that's it. Number 1 for me is Lose Yourself.
That's a solid one. My number 1 is the opening song for Lion King. I don't know
Not
what
even a circle of life, right?
Yeah. Oh, Circle Life.
So, Circle of Life. That's it.
Said that, but
Lion
This
King
really
could have
won't.
had 3. I mean, Hakuna Matata. Yeah, dude, that soundtrack was solid too.
It was. That and
That's
Space Jam.
awesome.
And now for the most climactic
Yeah.
number 1 in top 5 history for anybody who knows us.
Anticlimactic. In fact, it's so anticlimactic, Chris. I'm going to let you call it. How's that? And we've not discussed this at any point, but
the answer is undoubtedly Princess Purple Rain.
Oh yeah, that's a good one though. Solid.
It's not even the only other time that this has happened is when we had top 5 comedians and me and Mo read our number 1 at the same time. It was so good.
But I mean, I knew I could come up with 4 other ones, but I knew my number 1 as soon as we
off
came
top.
up with it.
Yeah, when we had this discussion, it was like, okay, that's number 1. So
There's
there you
number
go.
1.
So songs on my list. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from Armageddon. Everything I Do It For You from Robin Hood. Prince of Thieves, Gangsta's Paradise, and Danger Zone was on my honorable mentions. So.
There we go.
Ooh, left it off the list. Frozen wasn't anywhere on there. You sure?
No, Let It Go is not on the list. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's it. That's our Top 5 Tuesday, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness at stillathletes.com, at stillathletes.com. Make sure to check out Thalas Still in the Gang. We appreciate them, and we appreciate you guys for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Do we want to tell them who we'll be back with tomorrow?
We've got Auburn play-by-play.
We've got Andy Burcham. Yep. Auburn, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, and we've got
Heather Williams.
Heather Williams, because it's Wednesday.
There you go. So we'll talk NASCAR and Auburn football tomorrow on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Once again, for Justin Kulik and Mo Patton, I'm Chris Yao saying so long.